let's take questions at this point. And since I've told everybody to think of a question, there should be lots of them. So unmute yourself and ask a question. Ask the question.
Hi.
What's the first question?
I have a question. What would you say would be the main way to break into like the industry of, assistive technology?
Oh,
like a way to get started.
Okay. You may want to have some educational background, and I went through some of that stuff. It's okay to work on projects. I mean, you're still at the high school level. In universities, there are, clubs. I don't think there's an assistive technology club here, but there are certainly groups of people who are students with disabilities. There are certainly groups of students, engineering students. There may be professors and instructors who are interested in assistive technology that might help you. I'm just going to close my slides here. Okay. You may want to do some reading on the topic. There are conferences on assistive technology, and the one that I go to is called RESNA, R-E-S-N-A. You go to resna.org, you'll see that they have a conference coming up in July in Washington, D.C. And if you go, you'll see me there, and I'll take you out to dinner just as motivation for you to go. Okay. Please, check all those out. It's best if you, work with other people, and if you're going to university, I still recommend that you, go have a traditional background in EE or mechanical engineering or things like that, and maybe you can specialize, toward your senior year in projects and other things. But so I want you to keep an open mind. Okay, just because you're interested in assistive technology now doesn't mean you won't have other interests when you go to college. You might even find something that's even cooler than assistive technology. I'm not sure what that might be, but I mean, you can, you don't have to hold on to assistive technology if something better comes your way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Raymond, you have your hand up.
Hey, so I have a question about the patent thing. So basically, I've heard that you said that, like, basically to avoid commercialization, you said something about I think that if you like basically partner with a company, then you'll get rid of all the hassle between commercialization. So what happens when your patent expires? So like, does a company like inherit like basically all your invention, or is it just like does it return back?
So I think patents go on for 20 years. But I don't know what happens if you get a patent and you license. I don't know how a license is a legal document, so there may be some stipulations within that legal document on how long you have access and can use that technology. And I think after a patent expires, it becomes public domain. So basically, what you want to do is make all your money, while the patent is valid. Okay. Is that a good answer for you?
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Who's next? Is there anything any questions in the chat that I missed?
I'll go. Do you need to know CAD, or are there any other methods that I can help out with?
CAD is a tool for designing stuff. At Stanford, I think all the students have. There's a Stanford has a university license to some CAD programs, so it's expected. It's pretty much expected that students in engineering will learn CAD, and there certainly are courses that that do that. Okay, so even if you don't have CAD background right now, you can do some stuff on your own and also take a course when you get to school, and maybe that's something you do over the summer too.
Yeah. Would it be SolidWorks or could you use like Fusion 360?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. I think Stanford has SolidWorks.
Oh, okay.
And there may be a couple that they have, but it's go with what's available to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Who's next?
I have a question. So you mentioned that you have a master's in biomedical engineering. And so how has that helped you in like designing assistive technology?
So I was in okay, I was at Northwestern in biomedical engineering 50 years ago. So I didn't okay. So what I learned about assistive technology when I was going to Northwestern is that there was the Rehab Institute of Chicago was around, and there was a faculty member who was involved in prosthetics and a bunch of other things, and was worked at the Rehab Institute. So that was my first exposure to assistive technology and people with disabilities. But as far as coursework, there was nothing at that time. Okay, things have changed. Okay, next question.
Yeah, hi. So I also want to pursue a undergraduate degree in biomedical engineering, and I was just curious if you can speak on any ventures in assistive technology that combine mechanical engineering and biomedical engineering, or molecular biology, something like that.
Okay, it seems like odd combinations. At Stanford, there's lots of there's a biomechanical engineering, and there's biodesign and bioengineering, and so they all seem like they're pretty much the same, but I know they're all different departments. So the definition of these terms varies, and how it's implemented in universities vary as well. So the best thing for you to do is to find universities that might have these programs, and see what they're all about, and ask them questions. These programs are not universal. They vary by university. Okay, so when I got into biomedical engineering, and I did it because my mother wanted me to be a doctor, so I split the difference, right, between engineering and medical, so biomedical. So when I was looking, there was only 2 schools that had biomedical engineering, and Northwestern was one of those, and that was close by to where I lived in Chicago. So I remember the day I went up to Northwestern, and I was looking for graduate school, and I was going to get some information on the computer science program and biomedical engineering. Well, there was the guy from computer science wasn't there, and the guy from biomedical engineering was there, and I talked to him, and he offered me a fellowship on the spot. So guess which one I chose? So that was a very happy day for me. But your experience may vary, and yeah, it worked out well for me. Yeah. So, but you have to be prepared for the opportunities that come your way. So you can be prepared by just being involved, being knowledgeable, and take advantage, make a decision to go with it. Okay, so where were you thinking of going to college?
There are a lot of different universities. I know that like Penn State is probably the most achievable for me, but there are a couple others. I can't really name any off the top of my head. I know that UC Berkeley is pretty good, but my chances of getting in there aren't as high.
Well, you have to give it a shot. Okay. I know at Stanford, the acceptance rate is only 4%, but then the president of the university says he wants to increase enrollment by 25%. So I don't know where people are going to live, with another 25%, but, give it a shot. I mean, there's, somebody's got to be accepted to Stanford. So, give it a shot if that appeals to you. So don't discount a particular college just because you think you may not be able to get in there. Okay. That's not the way to think. You need to think more positively. Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Carson asked, the coolest assistive technology that's come up. Okay, let me think now. I'm blanking. I'm blanking. My brain is too full of practicing for my talk. So there was something I came across, but I can't recall it right now. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to look more in the chat. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah. Okay. Somebody talking about design the future. Oh, that's Abby. There was a program over the summer called Design the Future, and that was actually done by DC Design. And the fellow who DC is Darrell Coleman, who was actually a student here at Stanford, and he had a workshop, a 1 whole week workshop for high school students in the past. And Abby is a community member that works closely with me in my class, and she was involved in the summer class as well. That was a really intensive program, but I don't think he's going to be doing it anymore because it's just too difficult to set up, because he has to rent all the equipment and buy all the materials and tools and stuff like that. And Abby's talking about Project Invent. See if Project Invent is at your school. So just Google that, I guess. Dave is very cool. Can't argue with that. Laughing out loud. Thank you, Grace. Mick Jagger many times, and we just found out he was within the Rolling Stones. Okay. How many people remember who the Beatles were? Okay. Okay. All right. 60 Minutes this Sunday is doing a segment on the Beatles. So check that out. Okay. And Paul McCartney has a new book coming out called Lyrics. So check that out too. Yeah. So I remember the Beatles. I was there. Bugs Bunny. Okay. Everybody remembers Bugs Bunny and Snoopy. Okay. All right. Got it all. Anybody else? You shouldn't be embarrassed. Okay. Go ahead. Aisha?
Isha.
Okay, I missed your response.
Oh, it's my name is Isha.
Isha, okay, sorry about that. Go ahead with your other question.
Okay. Do you have any colleagues who are maybe working in biomedical engineering and doing something with assistive technology as well? Or do you have any ways that you would recommend branching out or researching that?
Right. Assistive technology isn't just a subset of biomedical engineering. It could be a subset of mechanical engineering or whatever, or it could stand alone. So where are you living now? Because maybe I can point you to a colleague.
I live in the Northern Virginia area.
Okay, so you're close to DC, right? Yeah, so
yeah.
You might want to, check out the ResNet website, and I'm sorry I'm shamelessly promoting it, but check that out. So that's a professional organization of people who do assistive technology, and it's not just engineers. So there's related fields like occupational therapy, physical therapy. There's even things called recreational therapy, and there's medical aspects of assistive technology as well. So all those are interesting. So if you want to reach out to somebody in your local area. Yes, is that a yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, also, really quickly, can you repeat the name of the site that you just mentioned?
Resna, R-E-S-N-A, resna.org. So it's a group that I'm associated with. You know, they have annual conferences and we're back in person. So it's a great place for, you know, they do get students, but not very often high school students. So, you know, if you can convince your parents to go there, that would be good. But they definitely have membership opportunities for students as well. They have lots of people. They have a listserv. They have newsletters. I've been going to their conferences for like 40 years. I think I've only missed one. So, you know, I'm at a point now when I go to these conferences, it's pretty much a a family thing. I think of my colleagues are more than just colleagues; they're family members to me. You know, I see these people, you know, every year for 40 years, which is, you know, much more frequently than I see my brother in Chicago. So, it's a reunion for me seeing these people. But if you want, if you email me your email address, I can pass the word along on the listserv that you are looking to connect with a professional in the field, and maybe they can be, you know, mentor or advise you. Would that be helpful? Okay.
Yes, I can send my email in the chat right now.
No, send it to me outside of it because I can't copy and paste from the chat.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is your email in the sign up for this Zoom meeting?
It was on the last page. It's just Dave Jaffe at stanford.edu.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Stick around.
I think Abby has a question.
So I'm just
Abby.
offering a reference. The Assistive Technology at CSUN conference has on the web a couple of the last year presentations that you can read. They have a major conference in March every year at CSUN in the LA area. But anyway, that's all available on the web, and you can just look at what's been presented in the past, you know, recent topics that are going on.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. Yep. Right. Yeah, so, you know, I find things in the news every day about assistive technology. You know, if you're can be aware of that stuff, you can see a lot of that stuff in, you know, in the public view. And it's a huge, so very wide area. And there's even organizations through the United Nations that look at assistive technology from an international point of view. The name of their organization is GATE. I think it's Global Assistive Technology something. So, you know, even if you're in a foreign country, you know, there's needs for assistive technology there. So it's a very, very broad field. Okay. Anybody else? Come on. Grace, good to see you, Grace.
Hi, it's good to see you. I was wondering, do you have like a chocolate chip cookie recipe?
Yeah, my chocolate chip cookie recipe is going to Safeway and buying them.
Okay.
I'm not much of a cook, but you know, they used to sell a box of 50 for $5, so that's 10 cents a cookie. But the price of those have gone up. So, you know, that's, you know, so the price of my course, education in my course has gone up because the price of cookies has gone up. But I do that, you know, just to put students in a good mood. And it actually helps a lot, because I had one student actually comment to me that she was feeling pretty bad the whole day, but she was looking forward to that chocolate chip cookie. So, you know, to make them look forward to attending my classes is very important. And it helps with evaluations too. So if you're ever in a position where you're evaluated, you know, give out chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Maybe you guys can tell me, you know, the projects that you've worked on, you know, at that MIT program. You know, just a couple sentences about the challenge that you worked on. I know what Grace worked on.
Daniel, would you
I
want to?
can start. So not all of us participated in MIT, but I think Claire, Meghana, Grace, and I did. So my project was assembling an open source 3D prosthetic hand for a middle school student without a right hand. And so I just sized it and fitted it to him, and it's like wrist actuated, meaning that it's all mechanical. So, but yeah, that was my project.
Okay. You probably already know there's like a half a dozen companies that are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what was special about your design?
I
Just
think
the
it was
fact that you did it yourself?
Yeah, I guess. And so I just customized it, the sizing to fit my co-designer, or sorry, not co-designer, individual needing the assistive technology. And I guess in that particular model was pretty cost effective. It was pretty inexpensive, so my teachers actually 3D printed it, and then I could just buy a kit that they sold for like $20, and I could assume.
Okay, what I want you to do over a period of time is to, you know, contact the user and see how it's working out for him or her over time. Okay, if it broke, if they use it every day, or it's you know, under the bed, or what. Okay, because you know, that's sort of an issue in my mind. You know, with some of these things, they may look cool because they have different colors and it may be unique, but you know, how functional, you know, is it really? So it's sort of an assessment kind of thing. So, you know, you give somebody an assistive technology device, and you know, what you do over time is you evaluate how well it worked for that individual in addressing their challenge over time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who hasn't asked a question? You can't leave until you ask a question.
I have a question. Do you know any like specific colleges that offer programs? You mentioned Northeastern and Stanford in their courses, but can you think of any other ones that have like rehabilitation engineering or like HCI or any like human-centered design programs?
Okay, yeah, I went to Northwestern, not Northeastern. So on the ResNet website, there's a list of colleges and universities that have programs in assistive technology. And if you send me your email address, I can provide that for you, or you can just go to the ResNet website and search for that. Okay. I don't think it's up to date. You know, when you ask it in combination, you know, with HCI and stuff like that, they may not be linked together. Maybe, you know, somebody a college that has programs in HCI may not include assistive technology, but that's okay. You know, when you go there, you can tell them that you want to work on an assistive technology project in HCI. Okay. Now,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, another thing that I didn't mention, which is closely aligned to assistive technology that you might hear about, is called accessibility. Okay, so I differentiate the two terms that assistive technology are personal things, personal devices that help a particular individual with their particular problem. And accessibility are things that help a person with a disability or an older adult better use shared resources, you know, like books, like the internet, like computers and stuff like that. They're both very important. And certainly companies want to make things that lots of people can use. And sometimes they're required by law to do that. So you'll hear the term accessibility as a part of that. And sometimes accessibility is abbreviated by A11Y, where the 11 represents the 11 letters between the beginning and end of accessibility. So you might hear about that, but they're different, but they're aligned, and much more into assistive technology. Because, you know, with accessibility, you know, to come up with a solution for accessibility, you have to consider all the people who might want to use that particular resource, okay? Whereas with assistive technology, you might only want to be concerned about the one person that you're working with who, you know, wants a solution to address their challenge, okay? So my course is all about assistive technology, although I do have one module where I talk about accessibility. Okay. And where would you like to go to college?
I was actually thinking Michigan School of Information because they have a really good accessibility program. And
Okay.
I'm a CS student, so I like the more software side of assistive tech and accessibility.
Is
So, yeah.
is that University of Michigan?
Yeah, University
All
of
right.
Michigan.
So go blue.
Yeah.
Yes, I went there, and I have a couple colleagues who work there. So if you get in, you know, let me know and I can introduce them to you.
Okay.
All right. Well, best of luck in getting in.
Thank
But-
you.
And where do you live now?
I live in Northern Virginia.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, I warned people, you know, I've warned Grace, who lives out here, that Ann Arbor has winter.
Yeah.
But Virginia should know that.
yeah, but with Virginia, you know, I don't have to mention it, but for Grace, I had to mention it because needs to know. Okay. Abby also went to University of Michigan. But yeah, so thank you. Okay. Any final questions? I want to thank you for your attention, your participation, your interest. And again, I want to remind you that you can you can call on me if you have a question. And so Carson asked another question about Harry Potter and Star Trek, to think outside the box. So yeah, basically, you know, you want to think of the weirdest brainstorming, the weirdest solution you might have to a challenge. So so you know, you can talk about okay, well, you know, for our solution, we're going to strap on 2 anti-gravity devices on the side, and things like that. So I want to mention a really cool project that Abby and I came up with a couple weeks ago. So she uses a service dog who's not in the picture.
No, he's not.
Okay, all right.
Retiring.
Yeah, so Abby identified a problem. She says when she's out with her service dog, a lot of people don't know what to do with service dogs. They see a dog and they think it's a pet, and they'll come up to Abby and her service dog and say, "Oh, what a beautiful dog. How old is he? What's his name? Does he know how to fetch?" and stuff like that. But you know, a service dog is on the job and it's not a pet. So and Abby's, you know, gets sort of tired of telling people, you know, not to bother Nathan, her dog. So what we're going to do is build a communication device for Nathan. So when Abby presses a button on her wheelchair, it will send a communication to a speaker that's located on Nathan's harness that will allow him to speak to the people who are disturbing him, you know, saying, you know, don't touch me, I'm working, you know, I'm on the job, you know, please stay away. So we're going to have a communication device for a service dog, which is first time I've heard of that. So there's a lot of really cool potential solutions out there. So we work also with a playground called Magical Bridge Playground, who've designs playgrounds for kids with disabilities that are inclusive and accessible. So there's usually have two projects with the Magical Bridge Playground to come up with ideas for new equipment. And a lot of times they'll produce, you know, something that's a scale model of a piece of new equipment and stuff. So, and I take the students on a field trip there. So that's sort of nice. So they get to spin me around on some of the rides, and I have them evaluate how accessible all the rides are by trying them all out. So a lot of smiles happen there. So, does anybody want to hear a little bit more about the course? Because I didn't go into that very much detail. You know, if you need to drop out, that's okay. If you want to hear more about the course, stay online. Okay, can have a show of hands who wants to hear about the course? Okay. I don't see any hands.
3, 4.
Oh, there are hands. Okay. So this is a course I've taught for a long time. So so each year I teach it can be considered another prototype. Okay, so I try to make it better every year. So the course meets in the winter quarter, and each quarter at Stanford is 10 weeks, meeting twice a week. That's only 20 sessions of an hour and a half each. So it's not a very long course, especially for students working on projects. So the course consists of these in-person lectures, and rather than have me speak the whole time, I bring in people who I call guest lecturers, who talk about very specific topics, including prosthetics and exoskeletons, and cochlear implants, and fabricating wheelchairs in developing countries, and adaptive sports stuff, and some research that's going on at Stanford with assistive robotics, and other things. We also have a class session on low-tech devices and design process. And we have the field trip. We have an assistive technology fair. If students do their midterm and final presentations, and we have end-of-term demonstrations.
Panel discussion.
Yeah, so at the beginning of each course, there's a little bit of administrative stuff, and then I speak about for maybe 10 or 15 or 20 minutes on a particular topic. Like one of the topics I talk about that's sort of off the wall is one of my favorite programs called The Big Bang Theory. And I noticed in that program, each of the male stars have a disability. And so I talk about each of those disabilities and describe them a little bit. And so that's a lot of fun. So everybody has a hard time with Penny's disability, but her disability is that she has no last name. And without a last name, it's hard to get far in society, right? Unless your name is Cher or Madonna or whatever. So I also have a talk about Martin Luther King and assistive technology. And so this is how my mind works. You know, if I'm thinking about engineering stuff and assistive technology all the time, then it gets sort of mixed up with, you know, other things that are going on. So I talk about the intersection of Martin Luther King and assistive technology. So sometimes I'll talk about you know, new products in the news, or God, I'm trying to think of all of them. Yeah, I have a little segment on famous people with disabilities, and every year I talk about, you know, some new people that I come up with disabilities. So even Elon Musk has a disability, as he revealed when hosting Saturday Night Live. So yeah. Anyway, so students work on projects, and these projects are with people with disabilities and older adults in the local community. And it's really key to have the students work with a real person with a disability who's nearby, because that's the way you get feedback on and suggestions about the prototypes. So if you work with somebody that's far away, it may be more difficult to get that. If you work with a person with a disability that you make up in your mind as imaginary, then here's what I have to say. You work on, you will come up with an imaginary solution solving an imaginary person's imaginary problem. So anyway.
You forgot to mention the panel with students with disabilities.
Right. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. So one of the best sessions is I invite some Stanford students with disabilities to just talk about themselves for about 10 minutes in class. It's really illuminating. And I just this week I got this student who was involved in this zero gravity flight called Astro Access, and this flight just included people with disabilities. And so the student applied, got in, and went on this flight, you know, where the plane climbs and dives really steeply, you know, exposing you to zero gravity for a while. And her disability is that she has a prosthetic leg, and she's going to be a part of this panel discussion. So I'm very excited about having her be a part of that. And I have another person who is blind in mechanical engineering, and a third person who is a postdoc who has cerebral palsy, and we'll see how well that works out. So I'm trying to get a couple more, and let's see what else. I think you pretty much drained me of all my assistive technology information.
Yeah. I have a quick question about the student panel. Will it be recorded for people to see, or?
Yes, I do have a video, but I don't make it public, basically only to enrolled students who had missed that class for some reason. But if you ask me extremely nicely, I might be able to, you know, give you the URL and have you do a report on what you've seen. Okay.
Yeah.
But it can't be. I can't make those videos public, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's call it a wrap.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for taking the time to present to us, students. And yeah.
What's on the schedule for the next one?
It was one of the guest speakers we had for a summer program. Her name is Abigail. She's she works in like the accessibility department of Google. So like developing to make Google appliances more, or Google software more accessible.
Yeah, we worked on like closed captioning for like Google Slides and stuff.
Okay, that's great. So I had a student who worked at Stanford that I just heard about. She works at Google on a thing called Project Relate, RELATE. So she has a particular condition that makes her her speech less than understandable. So look up Project Relate, and it's really cool. So it's a way for people who have what's called dysarthric speech to speak into an app, and with enough training, it can enhance their speech to make it more intelligible, which is really awesome. So so in 2 weeks, ask this person about Project Relate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll make that my the coolest thing that I've seen recently, Project Relate. Okay. Yeah, because if you ever had a conversation with a person with cerebral palsy, you know it's really difficult. You can, with enough practice, you can understand them, but if you talk to them for the first time, it may be really difficult. So having something that can enhance the understandability of their speeches can really make an impact for these folks. And there's a lot of people with cerebral palsy. And for other people who don't have a voice for whatever reason, there are a lot of assistive technology devices called speech generating devices, which act as a communication aid for people. And so they would basically, hit a bunch of buttons to enter their text. But there's also a technology called brain-computer interfaces where and there's a researcher here at Stanford who's working on that, where you just think about writing a letter, a particular letter of the alphabet, and the electrodes pick up the signals in your brain and can identify what letter you're thinking about writing, and will identify it, and then you can send it to a speech generating device, which is really cool. I mean, you don't have to, you don't have to do anything other than thinking about a letter and thinking about writing it out. So that's cool. Brain-computer interfaces is cool stuff. Trying to figure out what you're thinking about with electrodes is neat stuff and is advancing a lot. And Elon Musk is also working on this as well.
Yeah, with the Neuralink company.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, thank you all for coming. Feel free to email Dave if you have any more questions, but thanks for coming. And in 2 weeks from now, I think we'll have Abigail come. So.
Okay, invite me to that one too.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Daniel. Take care.